about success, our next speaker as you know, our theme is, what were these giants doing when they started out? So at age 20, Clayton Makepeace, as you see before him in that lovely sweater vest, was producing and directing television shows for a nonprofit and running a soundstage at the old Glower Street studio in Hollywood. Look at that. He thought he'd spend his life in film and video, and in a way he did, because he's producing masterful, powerful, control-busting VSLs among the other copy that he creates. And ladies and gentlemen, it's my profound pleasure to welcome back one of our favorite speakers, Clayton Makepeace.
Getting old sucks, doesn't it? I guess it beats the alternatives, but wow. I love the question Aaron DeHoog asked yesterday. How many of you guys want to make $1 million a year? Let me see a show of hands. Okay, now look around you and keep your hands up. Look around you and you're going to see some people haven't raised their hands. You want to know why? They're A-level writers that don't want the pay cut. I know a lot of you are new, and a lot of you are trying to figure out if this whole thing is for real or not. And that happens every year, because it does sound too good to be true. But here's a way that you can make more than any doctor, and you don't have to go to college for 12 years, you know? All of my doctors make less money than I do. You know, they're all younger too, But anyway, quick disclaimer, I'm not a guru. I'm a working copywriter. I write every day of my life. My client is Money Map Press, probably the brightest group of people I've ever met. And I've been doing it for almost 50 years now. I started out writing financial promotions. I took a break from them in the 90s when my wife and I launched Health and Healing, the world's first alternative health newsletter. We sold 2 million subscriptions to that. Did 90 million pieces in the mail. But like every writer, you know, Aaron said yesterday they've had 3 Grand Slams out of 30. But he was being a little modest there, okay? Those 3 Grand Slams were massive. But out of the remaining 27, he probably only had 2 or 3 bombs. The rest of them still did really, really well. And that's the genius of Aaron. And if you all are looking for a home, a copywriting home where you can grow, I want to make sure you come and see me at our table, the Money Map table today. But also, she's not partisan, but also be sure to check out Aaron. But after 50 years, you know, I started to understand how Hemingway felt. You know, he was famous for telling everybody that he had to write. It was an addiction. And he had to write better than it had ever been done before, which turned it into an obsession. And he wrote to his publisher and said, I hope you haven't got any obsessions because they're miserable. And, but he also said this, I like it at a war, every day and every night, there's a strong possibility you'll get killed and not have to write. You know, I was starting to feel that way. I'd been with Weiss Research for 20 years, and I was a big fish in a small pond there. I'd grown old there, and you know, there were no challenges left. I didn't remember what it was like to be you know, adrenaline charged by a new opportunity or a new challenge. And so 1 year ago, I took a job with Money Map Press. I left Weiss, and I went to Money Map. Now, Money Map is 6 years old. They do 200 million a year, over 200 million a year. Phenomenal growth, and just brilliant people working there. And I knew I'd grow. I knew I'd learn. I knew it would reinvigorate me as a copywriter. And those kinds of challenges, see, you guys are going through them now, and you have this vision. which is kind of funny to me that you're going to go through this period of time where you're challenged and intimidated, and then you'll come out the other side and you'll be all confident and going for it. It doesn't work that way. No, this is a business where you're constantly challenged, you're constantly growing, or you're dying. You know, if you're not growing, then you're losing your skills, the market's moving on without you. I did learn a lot by coming to Money Map, and I was reminded of things I already knew. And so now copywriting's fun again for me. I look forward to hitting my desk every single morning and going to work. And also part of that process at Money Map is that I'm copy chiefing younger writers. And not just younger, I mean some very, very senior people that I'm copy chiefing right now. You know, people that make $1 million or more every year writing copy and are legends in the industry. And I see the mistakes they make in their copy too. And so between what I've learned at Money Map and the crits that I'm most often giving to the people I'm copy chiefing, I want to share some of those things with you today. Now, some of these things, if you take them to heart, will instantaneously take you to the next level as a copywriter. So I would encourage you to pay and I'll call out some of those things. Hopefully some of them will be obvious. One of the first things that you do as a writer when you're taking on a project is you have to answer the question, what kind of copy do I need to write here? Do I need to write long copy or short copy? This is especially for the people who are brand new. If you've been around for a little while, you already know how to answer this question. Problem solution copy is great in the health industry, especially, because the problem is well known. Your prostate's the size of a basketball, okay? Here we are with the age-related stuff again, I guess. Got me on a theme. Or you have arthritis, or you have heart disease, or high blood pressure, or whatever. The problem is well known, and everybody has it. So you can just simply go to, like Carlene is famous for some of her Got Milk headlines. You know, what was it? Got gas?
Can't go.
Can't go, you know? She says she's written so many packages about going to the bathroom, they say she's number 1 and number 2. But you can write shorter copy about that for one thing, but that is problem solution copy. The problem is well known, but you got a novel solution. You got something people haven't heard of before. The other kind of copy is storytelling, and that's what we do in the financial space, where we introduce a situation, an opportunity or a danger that is not well known usually. In some cases, it's known. People have questions about it. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the solution is novel. The solution is something that people don't normally think about. And so, so when you're sitting down to write your copy, ask yourself this question. You know, is this a problem that everybody understands, or you know, a challenge or whatever that everyone understands, and I can write shorter copy for it, or write problem solution copy? Or is this something where I have to kind of romance the whole issue and tell a longer story? Aaron was talking a lot about that yesterday, how we do that, and we'll cover that too today. Now, if you come to me and you want to work for me at Money Map, I have my own copywriting pod. I had 3 guys, and I'm proud to say 2 of them have graduated and are moving to Baltimore to work full-time at Money Map. So I'm down to 1, and I've got 1 copywriter I'm working with now, and I'm going to fill that gap here in the next month or so. But if you come to me and you want to write for me and have a great idea for a theme for a promotion and a couple of good samples that show me you can do the work, chances are you're going to get a shot. So what kind of themes are we looking for in the financial packages we write? First of all, unique and newsy. It's got to be something that other people are not doing a lot of work on. The 2 exceptions would be, of course, marijuana and Bitcoin. Those topics were so huge, everybody had promotions on those, and everyone did well. But except for those particular exceptions, you want your theme to be unique. You want it not to be something that people are constantly seeing out there right now. And it's got to be newsy. It should be something that is in the news, hopefully, that your prospect is thinking about, but that nobody else is really promoting on, right? Does that make sense? Okay, secondly, it should have a direct impact on the prospect. If you write about Social Security in the financial market, you know, maybe some provision that's going to go out of effect in 30 days or 60 days, and they're going to lose a bunch of money. You're going to have an audience for that, because it's not just about investing in some, you know, commodity or something. You're talking about something that has a direct impact on your prospect's life, okay? And it needs to be easy to explain. If it takes you more than 1 or 2 steps to explain what the situation is, what the problem or the opportunity is, then you're going to lose them, especially on online promotions. Next, there needs to be urgency. Solid gold when you can find a trigger date, a deadline date, when something's going to happen. You know, we might find, this happens all the time. Every 2 weeks we have our platform meetings. We talk about the ideas that we want to write promotions on in the future. And every single time a platform comes up, we say, what's the trigger date? What's the trigger date? When is this going to happen? So what is the deadline, you know, that we're going to be able to talk about in the promotion? If you have a time, a date when something's going to happen, that's solid gold. It's not absolutely necessary. There are successful promotions that haven't had that. End of America is one of them. The most successful online promotion ever. Mike Palmer wrote it. But when you have it, it's a big, big plus. Next, legs. Recently I've had copywriters come to me with a great idea for a theme about an upcoming event that was going to happen in 30 days. Well, it's going to take you 3 months to write the package. So, you know, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that math out. It's just not going to work, right? So it has to be a situation that's going to be with us for some period of time. Next, it needs to be addressable. I've had copywriters come to me with theme ideas predicting World War III. How do you buy stocks when the stock market has just been nuked? You know, it's a smoking ruin on Wall Street. You know, we'll all be dead, but you know, you'll be rich. You know, so it's got to be an addressable situation, something that the prospect can actually do to protect himself or to profit. And the solution should hopefully be surprising. We'll talk about this in a moment a little bit more, but it can't be the same old thing that other people are recommending. Like, for example, if you're talking about, well, let's go to the war one again. If your solution is to buy gold, that's no solution. Everybody knows that you buy gold when in tough times, right? So you got to have something that's surprising, something that's worth paying money to get that premium to learn about the solution, okay? Next, the opportunity has to be proven. Now, there are 2 ways to do this, and I kind of messed this up on the slide, but it needs to be something that people are already profiting from. Now, if you're writing health, you know, I'm talking mostly about finance here for a reason. That's what I do. But also, my wife and I launched the very first alternative health news, and Carlene launched the very first alternative health newsletter back in the early 90s. So I've done a lot of health work too. And all these principles apply across the board. Historical parallels are great. So either people are making money on this now, or the situation is similar to another situation where people made a ton of money in the past. Okay? And then optional but helpful would be market awareness. If people have been thinking about and worrying about this situation or excited about it and wondering how to capitalize on it, they're already there. Aaron kind of referred to this yesterday, where there's an emotional connection to the theme, okay? So now your theme could be vanadium, okay? It could be, let's say cobalt, because we've got a couple examples on cobalt. There's a big shortage in cobalt coming. What does that mean? Okay? The prospect doesn't know anything about cobalt. He doesn't know that's going on. You know, you could still make a case, you can still make that work. But if he's waking up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night worrying about his Social Security check, whether or not it's good, now you've got something that I think you could really take it to the next level. I've made this mistake for years. I would start writing a promotion with a theme, right? I would go, okay, this is going to be about cyclical investing, Of course, we would never have that in the headline, but that's basically what it's going to be about, okay? And so I would start thinking about all the different ways to pose that, metaphors for cyclical investing, all this kind of stuff. And then I'd get down to the point where I was describing the premium, and I'd go, so how do they take advantage of this? And I found out recently that a far better way to go is to start with the solution. What is the solution to the problem? What is the stock that the guru is going to recommend? What is the supplement that he's going to recommend? Okay? What is the solution to this problem? If you start there, you've probably seen those ads on Facebook, secret found inside jellyfish that does this or that, right? You've seen those ads, they've been all over the place, okay? Well, see, they started with the mystery of the solution rather than, going in with the big problem. So knowing what the solution is, knowing what the recommendation is going to be in your premium is critical to deciding how you're going to write your lead, what kind of opening you're going to have. And of course, the opening copy is critical to the success of the whole promotion, the whole campaign. When you're looking at multiple solutions, you're going to find some that are really effective that you can show, like a stock that's gone up 500% because of a particular situation. But it's Microsoft. That's pretty boring, I don't need you to tell me to buy Microsoft. Or it could be the most interesting. It could be some little old company someplace that's got a special patent that's going to allow it to make a whole lot of money on this situation. But, if it's very interesting, but if there's no track record, if there's no way to explain how much money that they can make with it, that's a little weak too. So preferably you want both. You want a solution that is largely unknown, okay? And again, we were talking about storytelling copy here, right? The long copy. So you want hopefully both, okay? And remember, the nature of the solution will help you craft your opening strategy. Next, you ask, how do I sell this? We call this the wrapper, okay? And here's it's not enough to have a great lead. You have to have a way of presenting it that will engage your audience, draw them in, right? And intrigue, curiosity is the most powerful way to do that. And so, for example, we had some of these, here's some themes that I was given. Profiting from the Aramco sale. For a while there, Saudi Arabia was planning to sell a chunk of its big oil company to raise some money. So, you don't go in and say, hey, they're selling Aramco, here's how to make money on that. That's boring, right? So instead, we focused on Crown Prince bin Salman, Mohammed bin Salman, and he's a fascinating character. I mean, here's a Muslim who paid $600 million for a portrait of Christ. He's liberalizing their laws over there. He has the third most powerful military on earth. Okay, so he owns a palace at Versailles. I mean, the guy is fascinating. And so we wanted to do this thing about this guy and telling the story of who he is and what he's trying to accomplish in Saudi Arabia by liberalizing the laws, by bringing Saudi Arabia into the 21st century and so forth. And it's a fascinating story. And this is one of those situations you run into, especially in finance. Right in the middle of writing that package, they canceled the Aramco sale. Yeah. Okay, so then another one was profiting from REITs. This wasn't mine. I think it was Jed's. And real estate investment trusts. Boring, boring. But Jed happened to find a real estate investment trust that basically collects rent checks from the government. It buys real estate properties and then rents them out to government agencies. So, I mean, if you're going to have a customer, who better than the United States government, right? So now if you own the REIT, now you're collecting government rent checks. Isn't that brilliant? That's Jed Candy for you.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then, so cycles investing. This was a fun one. We had, it doesn't look fun, the execution, that poor guy, but we had an analyst who was into how the economy goes through cycles, how stock markets go through cycles. And it's boring stuff, you know? And so Richard Armstrong and I, with Lori Haller's help, we put together this promotion called Convergence. And it was about how these cycles were about to converge and cause all of these problems in the economy and how you could survive that. But still, how do you get into that subject in a way that rivets your audience? So we started out with, and I'll do this badly, but in the cold gray dawn hours of such and such a date, 1930, whatever, 4 Soviet guards marched into a dark prison cell in Siberia, and they extracted a small, bespectacled man named Nicholas Kondratiev, took him out, stood him up against a wall, and on the orders of Stalin, executed him. What was his crime? He had discovered a secret that proved that Soviet communism would ultimately fail. And Kondratiev is a guy who invented cycles, right? So the Kondratiev wave is the long wave in cycles investing. So you can see how we took a dull, boring, horrible subject and turned it into something that was riveting. Yeah, hopefully. Oh, by the way, we use that copy internally and externally. Internally, we made over $20 million with it. So it was very successful. Never hint that this is a promo in your opening copy. You're going to write 30 pages of copy for a 1-hour VSL. So you've got a lot of time before you have to say, hey, I'm going to try to sell you something. The minute you say that, the minute you throw up your order button, your tune-out rate just skyrockets. You know, that should tell you something. So if in your headline or your deck copy or whatever, in your pre-head copy, you say deadline to save $500 is March 31st, you've lost them before they even started. Okay? Avoid any telegraphing that this is a promo early in the copy. When I say at least 5 pages, I'll go 20 pages. Go as long as you can before you telegraph that. Up until then, it's all about the story. It's all about the problem or the solution. Okay? This is a Mike Ward. The guy's brilliant, by the way. He doesn't get enough credit. The guy is just absolutely brilliant. I constantly say, you know, we're all playing checkers and he's playing 3-dimensional chess. He's a publisher at Money Map. But he's, you know, for years, everybody's been doing these headlines, you know, 300% profits in uranium or whatever. And Mike says, you know, if your story's good enough, you don't need greed in the lead. You know, people are on their computers. What are you doing when you're, you know, on Facebook or just poking around on, you're bored. You're looking for something to do. You're looking for something to occupy your time. So if you can tell a riveting enough story, you're going to get them without promises of high profits or instant cure for cancer or whatever, right? So he told me to do this, and I did it. He said, go watch Saving Private Ryan. Okay, what Spielberg did there was genius. He said, let's not have any character development. Let's not have any of that stuff that Hollywood always does at the beginning of a movie. Let's plunge them right into the invasion. Let's put them in a boat on the way to the beach and give them 5 minutes of nonstop action with no dialogue to give them a sense of what that was like. And then when they came back with that script, he says, good, now make it 10 minutes. And they came back with that script, and he says, good, make it 20 minutes. At this point, you don't know who the characters are. You don't know what the story is. You have lost all track of time. You don't know who you are. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know that the doorbell just rang or the phone just rang. You are riveted. The Matrix does the same kind of thing in the opening sequences. If you can pull something like that off in your video sales letter, where you can get the prospect outside of himself, make him lose track of time, it's a high bar. But if you can do that, you're going to have one of the biggest winners out there, one of the biggest winners you can imagine. I'm working on something like that right now. It takes longer to do. Probably I'm going to spend a week just cutting the copy. I have over 70 pages of copy, and I haven't gotten to the product yet. So long-winded, right? To me, that was just genius, you know? All we're trying to do is get people to look at our videos, right? We're trying to get them to look at our video sales letters. That's it. However we can do that is good. There's no wrong way to do that as long as it works. And that technique, people are looking for entertainment. They're looking for a break from the boredom. Avoid same old references. Everybody, you know, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, oh my God, I need another stock. Oh my God, I need another supplement, right? So if you start out telegraphing that my solution is just another stock, then, you know, you're going to lose a lot of people. So it's not a medical stock. It's a play on a new kind of heart. It's not a 3 times ETF, exchange traded fund. It's a special kind of holding company that pays you $3 for every $1 other investors earn. It's not an oil MLP, Master Limited Partnership. It's an endless stream of oil royalties, or oil royalty checks. It's not a real estate REIT. It's a secret way to collect government rent checks, okay? And it's not a supplement. It's a miracle discovered inside jellyfish, okay? Nobody needs any of those other things, stocks, supplements. They don't need any of that, right? So don't telegraph that we're just the same old thing that you're used to. This is another Mike Ward thing. Nobody ever gets shot with a gun. This is avoiding abstractions in copy. You know, for years I've opened my copy by setting the stage. 6 months, you know, on such and such a day, such and such is going to happen, and paint this horrible picture of the stock market crashing the economy, or this beautiful picture of people making a lot of money. But it's vague, no detail, no fact, just kind of emotional copy setting the stage, okay? Those are all abstractions. There's no detail, there's no specificity. And Mike continually reminds every writer on his staff, there's no such thing as getting shot with a gun. You can get shot by a pistol, you can get shot by a 1911 Colt 45 semi-automatic, right? Each time you take the level of abstraction down a notch, the copy becomes more vibrant, becomes more real. This is one of those things, if you do it, and you open your copy with facts, data, okay, with specifics, you'll be amazed at the momentum you create right off the top. It really is powerful, and we're going to look at some examples. Copy originally read, your first royalty check will arrive soon, okay? That's an abstraction. Your first royalties could be on their way to you in 5 minutes or less with just 3 clicks of your mouse. See how just adding a couple of specifics to that sentence made it come alive. It's the breaking news story the intelligence community and Pentagon are working on now. There's some specificity there. But the way I wrote it was, it's a breaking news story that my colleagues at the CIA, NSA, and Joint Chiefs of Staff are working overtime on right now, burning the midnight oil at Langley, Fort Meade, and Pentagon City. Now, by writing it that way, all of a sudden my guru it's self-evident, isn't it, that this guy must know what he's talking about, my colleagues at these places, and he knows the places. So the copy comes alive. This was a fun one to write. The US Navy guards the Strait of Hormuz, right? Because the Iranians are right now threatening to block it, and a huge chunk of the world's oil goes through the strait. The copy ultimately read, President Trump has ordered Vice Admiral Scott A. Sterning, commander of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, to keep the Strait of Hormuz open at all costs. He has 2 aircraft carriers, 20 ships, 103 strike aircraft, and 20,000 sailors and Marines ready to obey that order. Oh, and if that's not enough, he's also armed with over 2,000 tactical and strategic nukes. Okay? You see the difference? All right. I'm a big Beatles fan. By the way, that abstractions thing, make the note, Go back to stuff you've already written, if it's sample copy that, that you've done that you want to show to potential clients, and apply that to every paragraph. Take every paragraph and say, how can I make this more specific? How can I take it down a level in terms of abstraction? You do that and you'll be amazed what it does for your copy. Instantaneous change. I'm a big Beatles fan. And in one of his biographies, Paul McCartney talks about one of the first gigs they did in Liverpool. And he had no idea how to do a set list. And so they started out with something really soft and like a ballad. And then it was just a jumble, right? There was no strategy to it. And he learned over time that a set list for a band should be like a W. You should start with high energy. You should quickly bring it down. Then you should build. Each song more rhythmic, faster, wilder than the one before. And then you should bring it down. And you have this series of crescendos. And the same is true with copy. You start big on the front end. You start with something dramatic, like we were just discussing, that grabs your prospect's attention. Then immediately you bring it down. And then you start building to the next crescendo. And you can do that by a series of, like the old, what was Ron Popeil thing, but wait, there's more, right? Not only that, but this. Not only that, but this. Not only, but wait, there's, and you just keep building it, building it, building it till the person's going, no frickin' way. And then you bring it back down again, okay, for credibility. And you take him through a series of those. And if you get a chance to watch Tim Melvin's, help me, Marcella, Tim Melvin's Heat Seekers. It's a new VSL from Money Map. Jed Candy did a great job on that. They shot it at Camden Yards in Baltimore. And they rented the whole stadium for the day to shoot this thing. And that's exactly what they do. He builds it up and he brings you down. Builds it up, brings it down. So think about the emotional texture. I don't know if I have the slide in here or not, but one of the things that I've always been an emotional copywriter. I always try to feel my way through the copy. But the way Mike says it is have a little imaginary Geiger counter by your side. And be reading the copy and feeling your way through it. And when that Geiger counter is screaming, you know that's a crescendo. That is a place that you want to build up to. But now it's time to bring it back down. And we'll talk about doing that in a minute. We all have this part of our copy where we stop everything. We say, hi, my name is Dr. So-and-so, and I did this, that, and the other thing. Or, hi, my name is Tim Melvin, and I'm a financial guy. And we all have, and then we present the credentials for our expert, for our guru, okay? We all have that in our copy. But more often than not, it's dropped in unintelligently. It's just, oh, I need something here to credentialize my editor, and they drop it in. But what if instead you build that crescendo on the problem or the opportunity to fever pitch to the point where your prospect is going, no frickin' way, man, that's just amazing. I don't believe you. That can't be true. And then you say, how do I know this? Well, I've been the CIA's energy analyst for 40 years. I had 23 commendations from the intelligence community, and 3 different presidents have given me presidential commendations for my work. I brief the Queen of England every year at Windsor Castle on energy policy. And in a couple of weeks, I'm leaving for Singapore, largest gathering of millionaires and billionaires in the world, to tell them where energy prices are about to go. And I'm going to tell you right now, okay? So you bring that in at that point, and you've got them, right? And again, you crescendo the story, you bring it down high. I'm Dr. Kent Morris, and you present his credentials in that way. I had a junior write a promo for me. This is also in the bio area. He was writing a promo on cobalt, which is a battery metal. And he presented Kent's credentials. And Kent's the oil and energy expert, right? But the way he wrote the bio, it was all about oil. But this package wasn't about oil. So saying he's the world's greatest living expert on oil was just not that bright, was it? You know, it's like, you know, the package is about arthritis, but the guy's an expert in erectile dysfunction. I mean, so what, right? So make sure that the bio is written in a way that it credentializes your expert in the field that you're discussing. Seems obvious, but I'm talking about copywriters who have been making a living at this for years, making this kind of mistake. This is almost an old saw at this point. Don't tell me, show me. Especially now with video sales letters. And I saw a guy on Facebook the other day saying, I'm going to bitch slap the next person that tells me that. You know, don't tell me, show me. And I understand that frustration. But all other things being equal, and we've kind of touched on this today, right? All other things being equal, the VSL that is the most entertaining will win. Because it'll get more viewership all the way through. And I don't mean, you know, silly singing, dancing, you know, whatever, unrelated entertainment. I mean stuff that drives the point home in an entertaining way. And for years I've taught, you know, and it's still valid, it still works. This thing where you go into a promotion, you say, I'm going to tell you what I'm about to tell you. And then you tell them, and then you summarize. You say, here's what I just told you. So that means, you know, and you summarize. And that's still valid, it still works. But what if you can show them? You can't always do this, but in a lot of cases you can. We'll look at one in just a second. What if you could show them first, and then tell them what they just saw? So this was a junior, by the way, his very first writing exercise. And he used a technique that's been used before, but the way he wrote it I thought was really good. The script went, now I don't reckon, okay, you see the guru. He's got goggles on, rubber gloves, he's got a hammer, and he's in a lab coat, and he's got an iPhone in this hand, right? Now, I don't recommend that you try this at home, but he whacks the hell out of that iPhone, right? Just beats it up. Break any iPhone open and you'll see something fascinating. He sifts through the broken pieces and lifts up this foiled pouch, the battery. He says his phone is powered by a 2,716 milliamp hour lithium-ion polymer battery. Specifics, right? Now, what is your prospect going to do with that information? Nothing. He doesn't care. But what it does is it establishes your guru as an expert. You know, this is stuff he knows. Okay. Inside this battery, you'll find a foil pouch containing layers of lithium, nickel, and graphite. Normally, you'd never mix these things together because there'd be a dangerous chemical reaction. Guess what's going to happen? The beaker catches fire. Okay? The mixture would likely burst into flames, and just when he says that, the damn thing blows up. Right? And he says, or worse. And then he explains that these things work in perfect harmony, like ebony and ivory, in perfect harmony if there's cobalt present. And the thing is, the world's running out, so prices are soaring, and early investors are making money hand over fist. So instead of telling you there's a cobalt shortage, the world produces this much, it's using this much, it's about to use a lot more, and you know, so you can make money on that, he's riveted you visually. You've lost track of time. You always wondered what the hell was inside that iPhone anyway, right?
Smash your own.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost charge money for it's cathartic too, breaking a cell phone. I mean, think about that, it'd be wonderful. So, all right, dimensionalize over and over and over and over again. Okay, so there's an example here, okay? 457%, okay, people don't spend percentages. Okay, if you're writing for finance, right? People don't spend percentages. You don't go to the grocery store and pay 10% for a loaf of bread. People don't relate to percentages like they do to dollars. So just throwing out a percentage, you know, this stock went up this much, this many percent, you're missing the point. It's good to say that, right? But you're missing the point. You got to turn it into dollars. That 457% profit is enough to turn every 10,000 you invest into 55,700. That's like getting a deal of a lifetime in a new C-Class Mercedes convertible. Your cost, just your initial $10,000 investment. Or you could turn 25,000 into 139,000, enough to pay cash for the retirement condo you've been eyeing on that quiet Florida beach. Or you could turn 50,000 into 278,000. That's nearly 6 times the average American retiree's annual income. Wow, that's a lot for 457%, right? And what was the thought process? Oh, and it's more than enough to put your favorite grandkid through a top-notch private college. Okay? So what kind of thought went into that? Well, you take the 457%, you multiply it times a $10,000 investment, you get a number. Then you just start asking yourself, what would that buy? What would that buy? Buy a Mercedes, right? So that's the thought process. How can I make this 450, this oblique number, something that lives and breathes for my prospect? Okay? So dimensionalize over and over and over again. And remember, you know, like I'm writing, I'm on page 76 of a 30-page promo right now, right? You can always cut. You can always cut, okay?
So true.
If you get through with your copy and you think you're done, Marcella was saying, isn't it easier to cut? Hell yes, it is. If you think your promo is done and you have to go back in and add copy, that's a real bummer. But cutting is a lot easier. It's not easy, but it's easier. Make me desperate to buy your product long before you ever say there is product. Aaron said something about this yesterday that I thought was brilliant. He took it one step farther. He said, you know, have people fall so much in love with your guru that they want to buy access to that person as much as possible. Why? Because as soon as they pay their $49, you're going to offer them an opportunity to pay $300. And whether or not they take that, you're going to offer them another opportunity to pay $3,000. I mean, all on page, right? So if you've done your job and they really want access to this guru, then, you know, all you have to do is give them an order form, right? So, so this is my permutation of that, but I actually like Aaron's reading a little better. You know, make them so in love with the idea of making money on this, or taking this supplement and getting this result, or buying a product that could do something without even mentioning there's a product. You know, make them fall so in love with the thing the product does that they're actually getting a little pissed off at you because you haven't offered them an opportunity to buy it. Right? So then when you do say, oh, by the way, and we'll talk about doing that in a minute, when you say, oh, by the way, I just happen to have something that could help you here, they jump at it. They'll write a rubber check for it if they have to. Okay? Step 13 is, well, we just talked about it, but there's more here. There's a guy, I forget his name, that sets his premiums up like this. If, you know, he tells a story, right? It's maybe investing in cobalt or whatever, you know, this big opportunity in cobalt. Now, if you're going to do this, if you're going to take advantage of this opportunity, you're going to need several things. You need to know the stock that you should buy. You're going to need to know the price to pay. And you're going to need to know you know, how long you should hold it, what you should expect in terms of profits. You'll probably want to know a lot more about the company, you know. And, you know, son of a gun, it just so happens I have a report, and I'd be more than happy to give it to you, that does all that for you. I've already done the work for you. So it's at that point, we still haven't talked product. This is just a premium. It's a gift, right? But instead of presenting the premium as if it was a product, it's just the guru coming alongside and helping. So it's a seamless transition from telling the story to beginning to offer the premiums. And you're still not telegraphing it's a sale. I really like that approach a lot. I get this a lot too, even in advanced writers. I get these, it sounds like a TV commercial, you know, hurry, buy now, you know, time is running out, and all this kind of stuff. If you've done your job and your prospect is so eager for this solution that he would just do anything to get it, you don't have to tell him. You don't have to use these used car salesman-y kind of silly phrases, right? Like, the sooner you take action. I actually pulled, this is copy and paste from copy I had critiqued. And the sooner you take action, the bigger your profits will be. You know, doesn't that sound hackneyed? Doesn't that sound forced? But if you want to make the most of this historic opportunity, it's always historic, isn't it? You need to take action now. You know, don't tell me what I need to do, you know? Even when my mom tells me what I need to do, I don't like it. You know, I don't know who you are, okay? You need to act quickly, yeah? If you wait too long, you'll end up sitting on the sidelines. So, you know, that's stuff we've all read a billion times. It's not good copy. And, you know, if you've done your job and made them want this before they know what it is, you don't need that kind of stuff. So we'll go through the last few here relatively quickly. Again, most of these are from Mike or from Jed or Henry or Terry or somebody else I've worked with at Money Map. A lot of it is stuff I knew and had forgotten. Some of it was stuff that I knew and was still using. And a lot of it is brand new and has really helped me progress as a writer. Read other people's copy like a writer. I hate reading other people's copy because if it's bad, I get angry. And if it's good, I get intimidated. Right? Now, what you do is, you know, if you listen to a great piece of music, you're experiencing that piece of music in 3 minutes. What you don't see is the 3 months that went into writing the song and producing it, right? So you see it as absolute genius. I could never do that because you're assuming the guy wrote it in 3 minutes because you just experienced it in 3 minutes. Same thing with copy, right? So when you're reading that copy and you're getting intimidated, right? Keep in mind, it took that guy 3, 4, 5 months to write that promotion, right? You're experiencing it in 1 hour or less. So don't let it intimidate you. Learn from it. Now read it like a writer. Don't get drawn in. It's okay the first time through, maybe get drawn in, experience it like a prospect. But think, you know, what is this guy accomplishing here? What was his strategy of writing it this way? What was his strategy in organizing it this way? Why did he go from big to small here and small to big there? Why did he present the premium this way? You know, is this more effective? What was his thinking behind it? Now you're reading like a writer. Okay? It's a very important distinction because we all read like prospects when we look at these things. Read it like a writer. Read your own copy like your worst critic. The one crit you're never going to get at Money Map is, this is brilliant.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen. They're looking for where you suck. They're looking for where you blew it because that's how they're going to help you get better. That's how they're going to help the copy get better. They're not going to help it get better by telling you how brilliant you are. Okay? So when you read your own copy, read it like your own worst critic. I don't know who that is. You all know who that is. And say, you know, why does this suck? Why does this miss a point? Why does this feel obtuse? Why does this feel nonspecific? Why am I bored here? Why is my mind wandering here? You know, why is my bullshit detector going off here? Right? Read it like your own worst critic. We talked about studying Hollywood movies, but really do it. Go home and watch Private Ryan. It just, you know, I can't watch the whole thing. I really can't. But I can watch that first 20 minutes. It's about all I could take. Try the Pixar story arc. If you want to Google it, go ahead, Google it. They have a 21-point outline for writing a story at Pixar. But the basic story arc starts out like this. And you can use it when you're writing any kind of story copy, okay? Once upon a time, such and such happened. Every day he did this. But one day, this one thing happened. Something was different. And because of that, this happened. And because of that, this happened. And it goes on forever. And then until finally, and that's where you have the end of the story. You know, we all study copywriting. We don't study writing. Think about that. You know, I went 50 years without ever reading a book on how to write. I read tons of books on how to write copy, but not about how to hold an audience, you know? So look for books. I mean, Stephen King's on writing is more a biography than anything, but Hemingway's got, there was a great book, Hemingway on Writing. Read the greats on just how to hold an audience. You know, I think our industry is branching out a little bit now. We're reading books on persuasion by people like Jerry Spence and Cialdini and so forth, and that's a really good thing. But read about writing, because holding the audience is the whole thing online today. If you want to write great copy, do great research. Your copy will never be better than the research you've done, ever. You can take 3 months or 4 months to write a package. You're going to spend 3 months of that researching. You're going to be looking at, I mean, writing is the fastest part of the process for me anymore. You're going to Google something and you're going to read 30 pages of search results. And on page 30, you're going to find that one nugget that's going to turn this from an okay promotion into a kick-ass promotion, okay? So do the great research. Take the time. Don't let yourself get in a rush. Don't let yourself feel hurried. Take your time with that research. That's where the power of the promotion comes from. Assume you're writing to the most skeptical person you know, the smartest and most skeptical. David Ogilvy said, your prospect is not an idiot. She's your wife.
Hey.
Not an idiot.
Yeah.
Did you get that? Okay, so she's your wife. So respect your prospect, okay? Have an avatar. The smartest, most critical, most skeptical person you know. That's who you have to convince. If you do that, you're going to win. To the degree that you fail, your promotion will suffer. And finally, make prospects discover the joy of discovery on every single page. Try to have something on every page. But is this new? Is this interesting? Is this exciting? What can I bring in here? And this is where research comes in. What can I bring in here that will really drive this home? So, okay, so that's what I have for you today. I want to just mention one thing to you, though. You're going to be getting, how many of you are interested in writing for the financial markets? Okay, quite a few. I'm going to be doing a special seminar in March with the Money Map team in Baltimore. And we'll have, Mike will be there. Mike Ward will be speaking. Jed Candy will be there. Henry Bingaman will be there. Terry Weiss will be there. Marcella will be there. And we're going to, and it's not just an event in Baltimore. There's going to be all kinds of webinars first to prepare you. If you think you might want to write financial copy, but you don't know beans about finance or investment, that's okay. We got a webinar for that. All right? We're going to show you how to do the research. We're going to show you the do's and don'ts of the copywriting. We're going to give you outlines, show you how to put your promo together. Okay? You're going to have an opportunity to write a promo. And if you do well, and we're going to help you write it, and if we like what you end up with, we're going to pay you a lot of money to write for us. So I don't want to give away the whole thing. Watch your inbox. There'll be an email about this coming up very soon. So I guess that's it. I don't think we have time for questions. I'm sorry. Thank you.